Tiamat. Perhaps you've heard that name before. Maybe you've heard that name in some game or some anime. Tiamat comes from Babylonian mythology, and just like other mythological names such as Zeus or Odin, the name Tiamat features often in mainstream media, which is why, even if you don't know anything about Babylonian mythology, chances are you probably have heard the name Tiamat before. But according to Babylonian myth, what's Tiamat's deal? What's her story? What does she look like? And more importantly, how strong is she? Can she punch Goku in the face? In this video, we will answer all of these questions, except probably the last one. By the way, I have made videos talking about Babylonian and Sumerian mythology. I am assuming you have watched those videos. If you have not, links in the description. Now, let's begin. And of course, we will do so with a story. At the very beginning, before there was a universe, before there was time, before there were even gods, there was Tiamat and her husband Apsu. He's gonna be dead in like 30 seconds, don't worry about him. Now, both Tiamat and Apsu were bodies of water, two separate primordial oceans. And when these two seas mingled with one another, they spawned the Babylonian Gods. Then, for reasons that I'm not going to bother explaining because you should have watched my other videos like I told you, Apsu decides to kill the gods. Tiamat is horrified by this decision. How could she not? The gods are her children. She would never dream of raising a hand against them. Not yet anyways.
Narrative device.
Unfortunately for Apsu, he is killed before he can carry his plan. The Babylonian gods then split in two factions. The gods siding with Tiamat and the gods standing against her. The faction siding with Tiamat tells her what happened to her husband and Tiamat declares war. Tiamat then creates 11 monsters, makes weapons for her entire army, and spawns a being called Quingu to command her forces. Then a god called Marduk shows up and he's like, how about no, grandma? And he one-shots both Tiamat and her entire army. Destroys their weapons too, which is a bit excessive if you ask me, but there's no kill like overkill, I guess. After Marduk kills Tiamat, he cuts her in half and uses her corpse to form two bolts that separate the cosmos. The upper bolt separates the Babylonian heaven from the universe, and the lower bolt separates the universe from the Babylonian underworld. Beneath the Babylonian underworld lays the Apsu water, the corpse of Tiamat's husband, and there, in the Apsu, the god Ea creates his house. The end. Yeah, I know. Tiamat's story is a bit sad and kinda poetic actually. In death, she cannot be close to her husband, and in life, getting close to her husband was what ultimately brought her demise. If we did character analysis in this channel, we could spend some time breaking down this story, but deeply analyzing fictional characters is for nerds. And this is a chat channel where we do chat things, like talking about power levels. Speaking of, let's do some of that. So, how powerful is Tiamat? Well, Tiamat could be argued to be a Babylonian goddess. I know that sounds strange at first, but listen to me. Tiamat is the mother of the Babylonian gods. We could argue that this means she is also a Babylonian goddess. And if we categorize Tiamat as a Babylonian goddess, then she would get all the general powers of the Babylonian gods. However, it could also be argued that Tiamat is a Babylonian primordial. That would be a different category, so she would not get all the general powers the Babylonian gods have. That's up to you, I guess, but even ignoring categorization, by sheer size alone, Tiamat has to be strong. Half of Tiamat was stretched across heaven. By heaven, we could assume the text is talking about a higher plane of existence beyond the physical. But being a bit more modest, heaven could also mean the real-life universe. And this would make Tiamat minimum twice as big as the observable universe. But even going with this route, you can certainly argue she's a lot bigger. Babylonian sources establish that there are an infinite amount of stars. By necessity, this means an infinite amount of space. And since just half of Tiamat covers all of that, then that would mean, as stupid as this sentence is probably going to sound to you, that Tiamat is twice as big as infinity. Look, what I'm trying to say here is that she's really big, and because of that, she has to be strong. If a person was the size of a planet, that person would not be a weakling. But is that it for Tiamat? She's just really big? No. Tiamat is said to be capable of creating anything. And yeah, I know, you will tell me that that's an exaggeration, but let's look at the things she has made. First of all, she made an infinite amount of weapons for her army. Second, she spawned Quingu, a guy who supposedly was stronger than all of the Babylonian gods combined. And she also made a bunch of mess. And this last bit is a big deal, because even if we don't want to accept that Tiamat can actually create anything she wants, the fact that she can spawn mess is still very good. But I have something even better. Ignore Marduk, and Tiamat is more powerful than the entirety of the Babylonian pantheon. Again, Marduk not included. This means that Tiamat is stronger than the likes of Anu, who is regarded as king of the gods and is constantly used as a benchmark for power. Tiamat would also be stronger than Ishtar, and Ishtar is so powerful that she defeated a clone of herself that was even stronger than her. But even more insane, since we can easily argue that the Babylonian gods are infinite in number, Tiamat would scale above an infinite amount of fate-manipulating Babylonian gods. To put that in perspective, there is an anime called Bleach, and I'm going to assume you know what that is. Imagine then if Yuha did not have the weakness to the silver arrow. In fact, imagine if Yuha did not have any weaknesses at all, and instead of just one Yuha, there was an infinite amount of him. And then realize that Tiamat would be stronger than that. This is what we are dealing with. This is what being stronger than the Babylonian pantheon entails. And this is without taking into account the mess scaling. In Babylonian sources, no god is explicitly stated to have created all of the mess. However, we have three candidates. The first one would be Tiamat herself. Since we know that Tiamat can and has created some mess, we could reason that she has created all of them. The second candidate is Ishtar, since we know that she gave to every god at least one me. And the third and last candidate would be Ea. He is said to produce wisdom, and his house is called the Home of Concepts. Now, because every god has at least one me, and there could be an infinite amount of gods, whoever created the mess created an infinite amount of them. If we accept that Tiamat created the mess, she has enough power to spawn infinite concepts. But if we credit Ea or Ishtar as creator of the mess, then Tiamat would be more powerful than the deity that had enough power to create infinite concepts. And this is just using Babylonian sources. If we add Sumerian sources to the mix, things get really out of hand. In Sumerian texts, the goddess Enlil is stated to be the creator of the mess. The god Ea, or Enki, would be more powerful than Enlil. The goddess Ishtar, or Inanna, would be more powerful than Enki. And the god Ninurta would be more powerful than Inanna. And, since, excluding Marduk, no god could be Tiamat, this means that Tiamat would be more powerful than several deities who are all increasingly more powerful than the goddess who had enough power to create an infinite amount of concepts.
What? Bro, I'm out, man.
In summation, Tiamat big strong, big number go brrr. And now that you know her story, and you, hopefully, have a somewhat vague understanding of how strong she is, all that's left is to talk about her appearance. See, if you go to Google Images and type the name Tiamat, you will get a bunch of images depicting a dragon lady. And yet, in this video, I say that Tiamat is a body of water. So, which one is correct? Is she water or a dragon? The answer is she's both. Tiamat is said to be a dragon, but she is also said to be a body of water. What I'm trying to tell you here is that while portraying Tiamat as a dragon is technically not inaccurate, her appearance is a bit more complex than just, oh, she's a dragon lady. Alright, that's all I have. We are done with Tiamat, and we are done with the Mesopotamian pantheon as well. What comes next? That's for future me to decide. But for now, you and I must part ways. So, thank you for your time. Hopefully, I will see you in whatever I make next. Until then, thanks for watching and have a good day.